Okay, so this is my final public video talking about my estranged relatives and the evil shit that they have done. Um so if you have watched any of the previous videos about these people, you know that I did my best to expose them and protect my maternal grandmother because not only did I feel like, but other relatives felt like, other relatives meaning um two of her children and one of her other grandchildren, felt like certain family members were trying to um make her leave this earth before her time. Yeah. So I exposed them back in March of this year. And in doing so, I received threatening phone calls, threatening text messages, all this kind of stuff, right? Cool. So I kept exposing all of them until I was done exposing it, and the hospital supposedly had a nurse going over there to my aunt's house to, check on her regularly, all of that. And then um, in June, um, the one aunt that I was the closest with, we no longer had contact anymore because she chose to stop talking to me. So anything else that happened with my grandmother after that, I was not privy to that information. And so, um, October the 5th, my phone was dead, so I had put it on a charger, left it off, didn't wait for it to charge, went back to sleep. And when I woke up and turned my phone on, I had a missed call on Messenger. I had text messages from my sister that we shared the same mom and dad, and a message from my baby brother. And I just knew that somebody was gone. Didn't know who, but I just knew, had a feeling. And so my baby brother told me, and then also my sister told me. Now, so October 5th, my grandmother passed away. And thing about it is, it wasn't like it was sudden for the people that were in the home with her or that were allowed to go over there and see her. But none of my grandmother's grandchildren outside of my aunt's circle and who she allowed to come into her home got to say their goodbyes or even knew that she was about to leave this earth, right? Now, one cousin, maybe I should have did this way earlier because they are live at 5 outside. Now one cousin that I spoke about previously, Demetrius, she was able to go over there the day before my grandmother died. And I'm not saying something that I just made up or that I heard through the grapevine. This was told to um my grandmother's uh either she was on the phone with my grandmother's youngest child, which is Angel, or my cousin, which is Angel's daughter. It was a recorded phone call where she was talking about that she went over there and her eyes look all glossy and you could just tell and all of this stuff or whatever. So that means that they all knew that my grandmother was leaving this earth, her time was up, right? And they didn't allow anybody else to come and say goodbye, but let them tell it. If we would have just came over there on peaceful stuff, we would have been able to say goodbye, all this and all that. But that's a load of bullshit. All of us already know that, right? But they're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to control everybody, control the situation. They didn't want us to see her. And how I know that is because, and I'm going to also upload the recorded phone calls with all this information as well, but it's not going to be in this video because it's going to make this video too long. But those recorded calls will be uploaded. Because like I say, I don't get on here and lie. I don't get on here and say nothing that I don't know that's factual, right? So, during this first phone call where Demetrius was discussing the whole situation, she said that my grandmother's body went to Paradise Funeral Home. That was an outright lie. I called Paradise Funeral Home. They never had her body. They didn't want, so me and Angel decided not to let them know that we knew that she wasn't at Paradise. And so I couldn't sleep. So I kept calling around trying to figure out where she was. And I finally found out where she was by doing the work on the phone. I called the Forensic Science Institute or something like that, where it's typically where bodies go and then they're released or whatever. But she did not go there. She went to Priority Funeral Home. Now, in this call, you're going to hear Demetra say that she went to Paradise because that's her family's people, that's her family people, all that. Typically, that's where our family goes, to Paradise, but she did not go there. And the funeral home had instruction not to release any information to anybody that wasn't Rolita, or I guess on Rolita's list. I have those calls recorded as well where they told me that. Now, the first call, they did tell me that they had her, but I feel like that person didn't have the information yet not to release any information. And so they told me, you know, her body was fine, blah, blah, blah. Then I get some more information from my sister. My sister tells me that my brother Herbert said that our mom said, you know, they wasn't going to be able to have her funeral because her body was too badly decomposed. She looked too bad. Y'all, she went to the funeral home the same day she passed away. So her body was not badly decomposed. If she looked bad, it's because of what they were doing to her in that house, and they didn't want anybody else to see that. That's why they didn't have a wake or a funeral. And then when they were talking about cremation, there's also another phone call where Angel was told to give Demetrius $3,000 and then she'll tell her where the body at. Then more stuff happened. They going back and forth and they arguing and all this. And then my cousin Lexus that I talked about, she sent messages talking about, tell that bitch you not gonna, that's why you're not gonna see my granny or something like that. I don't know it word for word, but I have proof of what was said, which will be uploaded also. So I said all that to say my grandmother passed away October 5th. It is December 31st, the last day of the year. My grandmother was well known in this city. Like, she was well known in a bunch of cities, and I haven't seen anybody try to celebrate her life or say anything, because I don't feel like they tried to let anybody know that she was gone, right? Because people would have been in an uproar. They'd have been like, hey, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? But for male relatives, they go all out. Balloon releases, barbecues, all kind of stuff. That's that male-centered shit, right? So, also, there's a thing going on where I press charges against the nasty motherfucker that they protect that assaulted me as a child. The detective talked to them. He called them, Rolita them. They never mentioned that my grandmother was not alive anymore. Never mentioned it. He had no idea. And he was like, they didn't say anything. Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. They don't want nobody talking about that and investigating that. And they tried to say that it was a funeral home that said that they shouldn't have a wake or a funeral because of how bad she looked. They never said that. When I talked to that lady on the phone, she was like, she's being taken great care of. And you know, they put people on ice, so to speak, for a long time. That way things can get figured out money wise. They just don't want any of us to see her. But like I did before, try to protect her. I'm going to speak out and I'm going to tell her story, because since she was a little girl, she was not protected. All I can do is what I can do now and not let this like go into the dark and just swept under the rug. No, it's not okay. We're not doing that. The videos will be uploaded tonight. But I had to go and put this out because I said this is the last thing I'm going to speak out publicly about regarding these people. The next thing y'all hear about them, you won't actually hear it. It'll be in a book that I write. So you'll have to purchase that book, because yeah, it's a lot of people that need my story, my journey, and need to know that you don't have to put up with that shit. So that's the end of this video, and I will upload the calls and all of that stuff also. All right, y'all. Bye. Oh, Happy New Year.